This is John Cola with DiscountJuicers.com today with another exciting episode for you. In this episode, we're going to go ahead and test some more mason jar vacuum sealers. If you guys haven't seen my original episode where I test many different Amazon purchase vacuum sealers, links down below to that video. That video has like 50,000 views in about 6 months where I go really deep. This episode, I'm even going to go deeper because I spent some good hard-earned money on some of the best advertised sealers on the market that make some, in my opinion, exaggerated claims so we could find out if they are actually true or not true, because before you invest your money in some of these more expensive vacuum sealers. That being said, my name is John Kohler and I started my website DiscountJuicers.com to sell juicers and also, more importantly, educate people about juicing and eating more fresh fruits and vegetables and other plant foods. And one of the ways I do that myself is by storing my juices. I can basically make large batches of juice, several quarts, up to 8 quarts at once, and then I could basically vacuum seal them in jars, keep them for up to a week. If you guys want to learn specifically about this, link down below to my video where I discuss about storing your juices in jars. And of course, when you're storing juices, really, you're exposing all the nutrients, the antioxidants, anthocyanins, carotenoids to air. And that's when the juices can significantly degrade. So, you know, a lot of other foods also degrade because of the oxidation over time. You cut open an apple or peel a banana, it starts to turn brown in just a little bit. This is the oxidation occurring and the polyphenol oxidase enzyme happening because of the oxygen that is in the food when it is being exposed to the air. That's why vacuum sealing is definitely the best technology I would recommend everybody have so that they could do batch prep of their juices, or they want to eat an avocado, they don't want to eat all of it, or they even do things like I do, like freeze drying. These freeze-dried strawberries, you would never know, are like 2 years old, but they're just as fresh as when I put them in here under the vacuum seal, and no trimming is needed when they're vacuum sealed in there with good percentage of the oxygen removed, right? And that brings me to this chart I want to throw up on the screen so you guys can see it. I mean, this basically comes from the company, the Plateful company. This is on their website, and it says normal shelf life of cheese, avocados, strawberries, apple slices, tomatoes, spinach, lettuce, and sauces. You know, they say the normal amount of time if you just put it in a jar and just cap it off, right? And then they say Vac Fresh shelf life, and that, of course, the Vac Fresh is using their Plateful device. It says now you have 2 months on your cheese, 4 times longer, 2 weeks on your avocado. And this avocado right here, I literally stored last week. I mean, I'm not seeing any browning on the avocado. It's still totally good. I'll probably eat that later today after this episode. Strawberries, fresh strawberries can be good 2 weeks, up to 5 times longer. Apple slices, 1 to 2 weeks, 4 times longer. Tomatoes, 10 to 14 days, 4 times longer. Spinach, 10 to 14 days, 3 times longer. Lettuce, 2 to 3 weeks, 5 times longer. Sauces, 2 to 3 weeks, which is 3 times longer. Of course, I like to primarily store my juices. I also store batch prep made salads. I'll make like 5 quarts of fresh salad or raw soup at once, and that'll easily store a week. I'll do, food that's cut up, like, my avocados and other heat processed foods easily will store 2 weeks. I do basically a heat processed vegetarian or vegan vegetable meal that'll easily store 2 weeks once I cook it and then vacuum seal it. And of course, when you vacuum seal the items, if it's fresh food, right, you still need to put it in the refrigerator. That's very important. If it's, of course, dried fruit food, like the strawberries, like nuts and grains, right, to prevent the oxidation from happening, that does not need to be in the refrigerator because you've already removed the oxygen out of it. That being said, how much oxygen is removed when you're using one of these devices? Because basically what I've learned is you want to remove the most amount of oxygen, because the more oxygen left inside the container or the mason jar means the produce or your dried goods or fresh foods will go faster because of the oxygen. And I'll go into detail on why that occurs a bit later in this episode. That being said, I want to get down to the hefty claims that some of these companies make as to how good their vacuum pump is. All right, so first up, we're gonna pick on the Plateful because, you know, I get so many people, especially commenting under my last video where I review a lot of sealers that look like the Plateful but aren't the Plateful, that say, John, how does the Plateful do? I came here specifically looking to see how the Plateful did because I test it with meters and stuff, which I'll show you guys in a minute. But basically, the Plateful, I was surprised to see on their website, they make this claim that says complete air removal technology. It says removes 99.9% of the air from your jars to stop oxidation and bacterial growth, keeping food truly preserved for weeks. And then it says why it matters. Most sealers leave 3 to 5% oxygen trapped inside, allowing food to keep spoiling even after sealing. So they actually admit that a lot of sealers are weak, although they are making their sealer out to be the best because it removes 99.9%. And if it does that, I'm going to eat my shorts today because that is an extremely high amount of oxygen removal. You know, to me, that is a hasty claim that does not appear to be truthful, but they're basically making claims so that you will buy their device because you think it is the best. And unfortunately, in our modern world, people move their mouths a lot and talk and say a lot of things that aren't true. And unfortunate people believe what they hear. And, you know, I put these things to the test in the arena that I work with, which is basically plant-based, high nutrient dense foods. All right. So it says others. They leave 3 to 5% oxygen, and the Plateful will leave less than 0.1% oxygen. We're going to put that to the test, guys. Anyways, so knowing that, Plateful makes the best claim out of the oxygen removal that of all the different pumps that I'll be testing today. Now, next up, we got the Mason Genie, another well-advertised pump. And the main thing that Mason Genie and Plateful have is that they spend a lot of money on advertising. You may have seen a Plateful or Mason Genie ad before this video, or maybe on Google Ads or other things. Anyways, the Mason Genie says powerful, sucks all the air out of your mason jar for a perfect airtight seal every time. So they basically say it pumps out all the air. So does that mean it puts it under 100% oxygen or air removal? Because if it sucks out all of it, it's all gone, right? So once again, that's another hasty claim. It says all the air, but they're not, you know, making a specific number claim as the Plateful. But still, it really makes this thing sound better than the others out there because it pulls out all the air. And I'll definitely bet you money that ain't true when we test it in a little bit. Next up, I'm going to test the SealVax, guys. This is the SealVax. You know, they make a kit that you can buy with actually lids that I tested, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And their lids are not quite the best lids, but there's some of the better lids out there. And they make also a hasty claim on their advertisement. And they actually compare it to other vacuum sealers in a video on their ad. And then it says, SealVax reaches a true -8 PSI and stops at that exact point for fresher, longer storage. Most brands only hit 0.5 PSI or shut off by timer. Fake auto stop. SealVax delivers real precision. So they're claiming 0.8 PSI, but what does that mean really? As a customer, you guys don't really know, so that's what I'll be testing. They're claiming that, of course, their sealer is better than other sealers. Of course, they are selecting the sealers they're pitting it against, which could just be weak sealers. They don't actually pit the SealVax against these style sealers here. That being said, I've tested at least 12 sealers in my other video, linked down below once again, and I've tested many other sealers off camera to prove it to myself, which is truly the best. Of course, another request I've gotten over the years is, John, test the FoodSaver. I mean, FoodSaver is like the brand name in air removal. I mean, they've been selling FoodSavers forever. They're probably one of the first companies to come out with food-saving devices, whether it's a portable one like this, or whether it's the built-in home ones. When I did test a built-in home one with a vac attachment, it really didn't achieve that much oxygen removal. That being said, the last one I'll be comparing all these to is the current winner of the test from the last test I did. Once again, linked down below. This is the Pure MVP vacuum pump. Yes, you're correct. This is not battery operated. So should the power grid go down, should the rechargeable batteries go out, you won't have to throw this one out because you just basically gotta pump it. It is very simple and easy to pump. There's built-in check valves, one-way valves, made with aircraft grade aluminum. Viton seals, for those of you guys that know seals, you guys know those are good seals. And this is basically a lifetime product, right? You buy it once, it's going to last forever. So that is the best one that I've tested so far. We're going to put up all these against the pure MVP to see if you could beat it. All right. So yeah, that's the claims. And I guess the next step is we're going to go ahead and get the test rig set up, show you guys the tester I'll be using, how it works, and dive deeper into that. All right, guys, so now I'm going to explain to you guys my testing procedure. So first up, I'm using a tester. You guys could buy this tester on Amazon if you guys want to buy any of the pumps that I'm sharing with you guys today. Links down below to my Amazon shop where I have these different vacuum pumps and the pressure tester available that you can buy easily. If you guys want to do your own test, I do encourage you guys to do that. This is basically a differential pressure tester gauge. Very important to get the right one that has the right range. If you don't get the one that has the right range, it's not going to work. So the model number specifically is the AI-189B. It's sold under several different brand names. The next thing you'll need to do is you want to take off this cap, and very important, at the top there's two little sensor holes, and you're going to want to plug one up. That's very important. So I have like a cap off, like an automotive like vacuum cap. You basically cap this off so it's nice and tight so no air leaks in, because we are measuring the difference in pressure between this one and this one, right? And so then you could turn it on. The red power button turns it on. Then very important, the only other thing you'll need to do is press the diff button. That'll measure the differential in pressure. And then you could turn on the light, but that light will turn off, relatively soon. So it might be a little bit harder to read the number in the container. And then today I'll be using a 24-ounce mason jar. This would also fit in a 32-ounce mason jar because it's tall enough and it's a wide mouth. So this tester will easily drop in and fit inside. And as you guys can see, it's currently reading 0.00. This means, there's no differential in pressure. And when we're talking about this, I'm going to be talking about the number on there. And basically, it's measuring like the kPa, or inches of mercury. And basically, what I'm going to tell you guys is that it's measuring the differential pressure, and it is how much less pressure is happening inside the jar than not, and we'll explain how much oxygen removal this means. But in general, if we're removing 20% of the air, that means we are also removing 20% of the oxygen. And of course, in air, oxygen is like 21% of the overall atmosphere, with nitrogen being the main component. And actually, nitrogen doesn't oxidize the foods like the oxygen. That's why oxygen is the enemy. Next up, we're going to need to use a lid. In this episode, we're not really going to get into lids, but basically the lids provided with these sealers are just standard mason jar lids. There's no valve in there, so you'll basically have to use your nails and get your nails underneath there and crank it up. Some of the sealers may come with a little bottle cap opener that you could get underneath here and then, pry up. The problem with that is that these lids are very thin. These lids are also made in China. They also have basically a paint or a coating on there. Hopefully they do not contain the BPA. But the largest problems with these lids that you may have, that may have come with your mason jars as well, it has the red gasket. This gasket is designed for one-time canning use. You guys that know that do canning, you're supposed to only use the lids once and then throw them away and get good lids, because it may not make a good seal. Can let bacteria and other things, go in there and then, cause your food to go bad and spoil over time. This is what I've experienced with these lids that have the standard red seal. These are designed for one-time use lids, not to be vacuumed on, be suctioned down and then taken off, vacuumed on, suctioned down and then taken off. And this is especially important. The more powerful a vacuum the pump makes, right, the harder it sucks down, and the more this gasket goes into the edge of the jar and then will indent it and then basically cause it to fail over time. I've had these go bad after about 6 times of sealing, sometimes maybe up to a dozen, but sooner or later, especially when you're storing viable food items, it will leak on you when you didn't want it to leak. So that's why I don't recommend the lids that come with the sealers or the ones that come with your mason jars. If you guys want a full analysis of all the lids I found on the market, link down below to that video. I test 18 different lids so you guys could find out what makes a good lid and why some of them are terrible. And of course, I test them all and share my opinions. Of course, the lid I'll be using today, of course, is the best lid on the market. This is the Pure vacuum lid made by the same company, makes the best vacuum pump. And simply, this is stainless steel, right? That's the big difference. In addition, this has a valve, so instead of having to pry your nails off or using a tool that then could damage and bend the lid, this is stainless steel. It's 4 times thicker, guys, so it's not even going to bend on you. Furthermore, to let off the vacuum, just press on this little valve. The air will whoosh in. You can easily lift this out without breaking your nails or using any extra tools. In addition, the other thing that's really good about this is that instead of using the standard red gas material, once again, that's a one-time use, they're using a high-quality, food-safe silicone gasket material for not only the gasket, but as well as the valve. So this is infinitely reusable. Many times will, not crunch down and is basically a lifetime purchase. I haven't had one of these lids fail on me yet. So these are the lids we'll be using to do all the testing today. This way we get an even test, because if we start using these lids and then they get compressed down, it may cause some leakage. So first up, we're going to go ahead and test the Plateful to see if it does in fact remove 99.9% of the oxygen as claimed. And it has a ring on here, so you could do these narrow mouth mason jars, and you basically just twist this off, and now instantly it's a wide mouth. So we're just going to go ahead and put this on over the jar. Next up, we're going to go ahead and press the on button, and then we'll do a close-up on the meter so you guys can see how much oxygen is being removed. All right, you guys could hear it come on. It's running, and there's a countdown timer. It's currently flashing green on the top, and as you guys can see, we are removing oxygen out of the jar. We're going to go ahead and speed this part of the video up and come back at you when the meter does not move any further. All right, guys, so you guys can see we basically stopped at about 59.6 and the Plateful shut off. So this is basically 59% oxygen removal. This is basically just as much as the other mason jar sealers I tested in the past episode. So this is not removing 99% in my opinion. And let's go ahead and once again, we'll just punch it again to make sure and let it go again to see if it's actually on a timer or if it's actually trying to pull out more oxygen. So I don't even think it has a sensor in there, because if it had a sensor, it would sense that it actually has gotten the most oxygen and it would shut off automatically. It's just kind of going on a timer. So it's currently counting up, and I'll tell you guys when it shuts off. So basically it shuts off after about just under 30 seconds. And this time we achieved, as you guys could see, 59.7. So pretty much 59. I think I got up to 60 at one point. That is the Plateful, guys. Oh, and then removing this, you gotta, it's just kind of stuck on there. Whoop, all right. We got it off. So 60% oxygen removal on the Plateful. That's definitely far cry from their advertising that says 99.9% air. In my testing, it's 59% of the air. Far cry from 100. All right, guys, so we're let the vacuum off, and we're going to go ahead and reset the meter. All right, guys, we got the meter reset. Next lid back in place. Next up, let's go ahead and test the Mason Genie. Once again, this comes for a narrow mouth. We're going to spin this off. Pretty much works the same way. We're going to just drop this on the top of the jar and press the button to start. And once again, it comes on, and also it is counting up. So we're going to go ahead and do a close-up so you guys can see how much vacuum is being pulled by the Mason Genie. Definitely sounds more powerful than the Plateful. Alright guys, so this appeared to run a total of like a minute, because it counted up to like 57 and then cut off and it looks like we got up to basically 57% oxygen removal. A far cry from all the oxygen that is claimed on their website. And all right, guys, so I ran it a second time and no additional oxygen removed. It did run a total of literally 1 minute. So both the Plateful and the Mason Genie, in my opinion, basically failed. They basically only removed as much as the much less expensive counterparts that are available on Amazon. These are not anything special aside from the incredible amount of marketing budget they put in and false advertising, in my opinion, on their website. All right. Next up, let's go ahead and reset the jig and test up the SealVax, literally designed to pull oxygen out of the mason jars, who make claims that their vacuum sealer is better than others as well. Let's go ahead and put this on our test jig and get it sealing. All right, sounds like it's working. Let's go ahead and take a look at how much it is actually pulling. All right, the SealVax ended up at 54.7% of oxygen removed. So that's even less than these other two, although they make the claim that it's more powerful than other pumps. It says 0.8. And so to me, this is not 0.8, but you know, whatever. All right, let's go ahead. Once again, reset the test jig. We're gonna go ahead and test out the FoodSaver. All right, guys, next up, let's go ahead and test the FoodSaver. Just gonna go ahead and put it on the top and press the button. It's very quiet, and I guess you gotta keep the button held down for it to run. So I'm just gonna keep it held down as long as I need to until it gets to the maximum oxygen removal. So let's go ahead and take a look at the test rig. All right, so the FoodSaver, very inconvenient to use. You gotta literally sit there and keep it held down, and it only removed, I think, 44.1% of the oxygen out of the container. So yeah, of all these so far, actually the Plateful was the best, and the Mason Genie was the second best, and the SealVax was the third best. Next up, let me go ahead and show you guys the Pure MVP and show you guys how much oxygen you can remove with this manual pump. All right, guys, so with the Pure MVP, there is a little bit of work. You will need to pull up the pump on here to get it to work. I'm gonna basically do 10 pumps, stop, and then show you guys the number. I'll then do another 10 pumps, share the number. And at a certain point, you're gonna start feeling resistance on the pump, right? When it's starting to get harder to pull, you're getting near the maximum vacuum pressure that you can. And when you keep pumping and you feel a lot of resistance, the resistance is not growing any further, then you know you've achieved maximum vacuum pressure. In this case, I'll tell you guys how many pumps it takes to get maximum vacuum pressure, because in this case, of course, I have a meter that I could read all the way along. All right, guys, so we got the MVP on there, and let's get pumping. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So as you guys can see, after just literally 10 pumps, that was super simple, super easy. We've already achieved 63.9% of the oxygen removed. That basically blows away all these pumps with 10 simple pumps. It was much quicker, much faster, and no electricity or batteries required. No recharging required, right? Use your hand to pump it. 63% after 10 pumps. Let's go ahead and do another 10 pumps. So another 10 pumps. We're now up to 20 pumps. There was more resistance on the pump this time, but now we've got up to 78.5% oxygen removed out of this mason jar. Nobody else, guys, is going to show you guys this. Pure doesn't have a huge advertising budget like Plateful or Mason Genie to spend the big bucks to tell you guys that it removes the most. Although on their website they do make the claim it removes between 80 to 85% of the oxygen. But we've only done 20 pumps. Let's keep going. So we're at 30 pumps now, and we're about at 81.3% oxygen removal. So it has achieved 80%, which is what the website states after 30 pumps. Not that difficult. Let's go ahead and do another 10 more. At this point, there'll be a point of diminishing returns where we could pump 10 times, and we might just get another point or two, but let's find out. All right, now we're down to 40 pumps, and we're still at 81.7 or 8. Let's go ahead and do another, maybe I'll just do another 30 pumps right now, just super fast, super quick, to see if we could even get any more oxygen out of this mason jar. All right, guys, so I pumped a whole bunch, maybe 40 or 50 more pumps. And if you guys could see that on the screen, we're like basically, we're peaking out at like 83. It basically dropped back down to 82. Not because it's leaking, but because the pressure sensor in there maybe is not as precise as it could be, because it is a $30 pressure tester meter. Nonetheless, the pure MVP in this test achieved 83% oxygen removal. This is the highest that I've found out of any different handheld device you guys can use. So what I want to do next is actually dive deeper in to why the higher percentage oxygen removed is better and what this actually means to you. All right, guys, so now I want to dive in deeper on the number on the meter. So the number on the meter specifically was the amount of air removed from the mason jar. As you guys see, these ones removed like in the 50s. I think it was 55, maybe 59, 57. This one was like even lower than that. And of course, the pure was about 83% air removed. Now, because 83% of the air removed, this also means that 83% of the oxygen was removed, right? That means there's whatever 17% of the oxygen remaining. But how much is that? So I got this chart that we're going to pop up on the screen, because I got flack for this, doing this test last time, and I just said percentage of oxygen removed, which is really the percentage of air removed, which is actually also the percentage of oxygen removed. Nonetheless, we're going to throw up this for full transparency on the screen right now so you guys can see it. This is the oxygen removal and remaining levels detailed calculation. So for example, if we have 59, we have 59% of the oxygen or total air removed, which is in fact 59% of the oxygen removed, times 21%, which is the amount of oxygen in the air, we're left with 12.39% oxygen removed with a plateful. And that means that 21% minus 12.39%, that means there's 8.61% oxygen left when you guys use the plateful. If you guys use one of the ones that make 55% or something, one that's worse, like the 55%, this would be 9.45% oxygen remaining in the container, right? Even Plateful himself says theirs removes like everything, or, leaves 1%, which is not true. Theirs, in my testing, leaves 8.61%. That being said, let's go down further on the chart. And as we go down to 83, which is basically what the pure MVP removed, 83% total air, which also was 83% of the oxygen of 21%, meaning 17.43 was removed. How much is left? That means you have 3.57% oxygen left in the container. So Plateful, once again, 8.61% oxygen left in the container, and you get a better pump that may even cost less than the Plateful pump, right? 10 simple pumps or 20 pumps, getting it up to 81. And you can remove twice as easily, more than twice as much oxygen, because now we're down at 3.57 versus 8.61. So hopefully you guys are following the math on this. So why is this important? We're going to go ahead and throw up this table on the screen so you guys can see it. Basically, this table is based around ambient O2, or how much is left in the container. So for example, this is oxygen sensitivity of microbes tested and CFU counts in different types of bacteria that can make your food spoil, go bad, and even get you sick. So mesophilic bacteria, cypertrophic bacteria, coliform bacteria, Pseudomonas, yeast, and molds, right? So at standard oxygen, right, if you just cap it off, you have 21% oxygen in the jar, 21% oxygen in the air, maybe a little bit different depending on where you live. But nonetheless, you're going to get basically full growth of all these bacteria, yeast, and molds that will cause your food to go bad. That's why you should always vacuum seal, right? If you remove 60% of the oxygen and have about 8% left, right, like the Plateful does, and they make hasty claims that are not true, right, you will get definitely reduced mesophilic bacterial growth. You'll get slowed psychotropic bacterial growth. Even the coliforms and enterobacteria will be moderate. It won't be full growth. The Pseudomonas will be slowed, and the yeast and molds will also be reduced, especially the molds that need oxygen to survive, right? And that's at 60%. So even the Plateful is better than nothing. That being said, if you guys want to remove the most oxygen, once again, 80% less O2. In this case, we got 83% less O2, which in this case brings down the O2 left to 3.57% in the jar compared to the Plateful at 8.61, right? Then you get basically very low mesophilic bacteria because many aerobes are suppressed because they need oxygen to breathe and survive and respirate. The psychotropic bacteria is severely reduced. The coliforms are low to moderate, so that's as low as we could get them. The enterobacteria is low to moderate, and the Pseudomonas is severely inhibited because they need oxygen to survive. The yeast and molds are strongly inhibited because they need the oxygen to survive as well, because literally there's less than half as much oxygen when you guys use the right pump, right? If you guys want to waste your money on expensive pumps that pull as much as cheap Amazon pumps, that's up to you guys. I'm just showing you guys my testing where I'm using, meters that you can actually duplicate. Once again, links down below my Amazon shop. If you guys want to buy the meters and do your own testing, and if you find a pump better than the Pure, let me know, guys, because I'll surely test that and show you guys. Every pump I've tested never even comes close to the Pure, except some cheap Chinese plastic pumps that are manual, but then they break on you. Okay, now why is this important when storing your juices? I put my juice already away back in the fridge that I had, and this is another chart that I made, and we'll throw it up on the screen there. You guys can see this is why it's important to remove as much oxygen from your juices, because when you basically crack open or blow open or grind open the cell walls during juicing, you release the valuable phytonutrients, the beta carotenes, the carotenoids, different kinds of polyphenols, antioxidants. All these compounds can be damaged by oxygen and can cause them to degrade over time. And especially when you're trying to vacuum seal a liquid, right? If you use a weak pump, right, that has less than 70% vacuum, such as one of these, right, you're going to get about 0 to 2 days of storage out of your juices. Why? Because although you're removing 70% of the oxygen, there's still 30% remaining. And even more importantly, the dissolved oxygen that is in the juice remains in the juice. If you have a strong enough pump, like if I use the Pure pump when I'm sucking out my juices, I will see bubbles literally come out of the juice up to the top. That's why you shouldn't fill it too high. You'll see bubbles come out. You're basically de-aerating the juice, right? They know about de-aerating wines and beers before they put beers in bottles or cans to sell to you guys. They'll de-aer it because that oxygen inside the bottle or can will cause the wine to lose the flavor, to degrade over time, right? And likewise, if you use a more powerful vacuum than this less than 70%, right, 70 to 75% vacuum, and none of these even achieve that, you could maybe get 2 to 4 days of storage. But if you want to get the 5 to 7 days of magical storage with your juices, you want to use a strong vacuum that once again will leave, in this case, 3.5% of the oxygen left in the container, once again in your juices, and once again the Plateful left in 8.61%, guys. So this is the reason why pulling out more oxygen is better. Longer storage. If you guys are concerned about storing your nuts and grains and seeds and beans, right, the more oxygen you remove, the longer they can store, right? Nuts and seeds can go rancid because of the fats will go rancid due to the oxygen exposure. The more you pull out, the longer you could store it. So I'm not going to make any exact claims on how long you could store things, but it's very long when you remove the most amount of oxygen. Once again, going from 8.61 to 3.57, that's over double the amount of oxygen removed. This is why the Pure MVP pump is the only pump I recommend to you guys. And if you guys don't want to do all the pumping on the Pure MVP, you could get a cheap pump, right? I wouldn't buy the Plateful, but you can get a cheap, inexpensive pump to basically pump it out your jar to like 59, 60, and then use this to take it the rest of the way. So now you could actually do less pumping, but then wouldn't even waste my time, because actually within the first 10 pumps that are the easiest to pull, right, you already got more than one of these cheap pumps. So save your money. Don't buy things that are going to end up in American landfills, cheap Chinese plastic. You know, get a solidly constructed aircraft grade aluminum lifetime pump with Viton seals, one-way check valve, so you're not pushing air back in every time you basically go back down like the cheap plastic pumps I've tested in the past. If you guys want to buy the best Pure MVP pump as well as the Pure MVP lids, they make the valve lids, which I prefer. They also do have flat lids without the valves that you will need to use a tool to get open, or have really strong fingers and fingernails to pry this off after you basically pulled out 83% of the air out of here. This is why I get incredible lengths of storage on my foods. Anyways, you guys want to go to the website bit.ly/puremvp and make sure you guys use the coupon code DJ5. That'll save you guys $5 off your purchase over $100, and you will also get free shipping on the Pure MVP pump. This is the last pump you'll need to buy, and it's the most powerful on the market. So you guys remove the most oxygen from all your different dried goods, fresh goods, fruits and vegetables, soups, cheese, meats, and you'll even get longer storage than the Plateful or any other sealer on the market. I surely hope you guys enjoyed this episode where I basically go over and break this all down for you guys, so now you guys know truly the best vacuum sealer on the market at this time. If you guys enjoyed this content, want more videos like this where I spend my hard-earned money to buy these inexpensive pumps that I knew were not going to perform well, please make sure to give this video a big thumbs up. Also, more importantly, share this with other people so that they don't get ripped off buying the cheap Chinese-made pumps, whether it's advertised or a cheap one on Amazon. They all still pull about 59 to 60% oxygen, as do other electric pumps I've found. The manual pumps in my testing have always pulled the most. You can't compete with this long throw and all the oxygen or air removed, whereas these cheap Chinese pumps have little diaphragm valves that just got to keep going and move a little volume of air a little bit at a time. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button right down below so you don't miss my new upcoming episodes. I've coming out 5 to 7 days. You never know what will show up, what you'll be learning, what new juicers or other kitchen tools I'll be unboxing or comparing to allow you to maximize your nutrition out of fruits and vegetables and other plant foods. Make sure you click the little bell so you get notified as many videos come out. And finally, be sure to check past episodes. Past episodes are a wealth of knowledge. Over 900 episodes at this time on this channel dedicated to you guys all about the different juicers and other appliances to preserve your fruits and vegetables and get the most nutrition into you. Links down below once again to my videos I've made in the past about the Pure MVP pump, comparing it to other pumps, as well as where I compare all the different vacuum lids on the market so you guys could find the best one without wasting your hard-earned money. So with that, my name is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Be sure to visit DiscountJuicers.com/YouTube for special promotional offers for our YouTube visitors.